Hello everyone and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 17th of July 2023. It's Gary here again, and guess what folks? We finally at long last have football to look forward to this week. Yes indeed, not real genuine competitive football, but football nonetheless, and that's a good thing to get us going as we gear up to the season here starting in a few short weeks. So that's obviously starting with tomorrow, and that's the Newcastle game at home, which is Alan McGregor's testimonial, and that's on of course Tuesday the 18th of July, and it's a 2:45pm Eastern Standard Time kickoff, and then followed hot on the heels of that with another home friendly against Hamburg, this time our partners from Germany, and that's the 22nd of July at 10am Eastern Standard Time. That's a 3pm kickoff as well. We're then following that next week by Olympiacos at home, and then finishing our pre-season off with an away tie at Hoffenheim. I'll talk about both of those and the kickoff times. I got corrected on the kickoff time last week, and I'm not sure if I kind of maybe fluffed my lines or not. I didn't go back and check, but I'll mention Olympiacos and Hoffenheim next week. It seems like it actually seems like quite a long time since we've had a new season to look forward to after some genuine fundamental changes to the squad. It seems to be every single season, to me anyway, every close season or leading up to the close season, you're thinking this is going to be a monumental change in the squad. We're going to see so many in, so many out, and next season it's going to look different. And then the beginning of the next season starts and you're like, that kind of seems like very similar to what we had last season. And it's like there's maybe 10 or 15 or maybe even 20% of the squad different, but not wholesale fundamental changes. And it seems to be that after the signings or the signing spree, I should say, even that Michael Beale and the club have been on thus far, and it doesn't look like we're done just yet, but with all that we've seen thus far, it's good. It's going to be good to see these folks in competitive action and start to get a look and feel for them, to get a look and feel of us as fans. And I understand tomorrow night's testimonial is a sellout as well, which is tremendous news. So they're going to get a real opportunity to see a great atmosphere at Ibrox. Everybody there, lauding after McGregor being one of our best goalies ever as well, and they'll get a feel and a taste and a flavour for what it's like to turn up to a roaring Ibrox as well there. So yeah, as I say, it's going to be good to see them in somewhat competitive action. It's more about getting minutes into the legs at this point of the season. But when you get these kind of glamour friendlies, and Newcastle now with their new Saudi-backed situation that they've got and the players that they've got as well, that's a bona fide. I mean, it's a literal Champions League club that is coming up to play us. And it's going to give us a real good test, just with just kind of less than 3 weeks of close season to go until we actually get into competitive action as well. So lots and lots to get excited about now. In terms of this week's pod, there'll be a wee bit of RTV, some convention, and then a wee bit of communications, and then that'll do us for this week, and we'll get going on that. So in terms of the game segment, you know what? I didn't actually realise that we had a training match organised in Germany just this last week there, but we did indeed, and we managed to round off our pre-season training camp in Germany with a 2-0 win over Hallescher, I don't know, something like that, FC on Friday afternoon. And Michael Beale managed to play most of his new signings. There's obviously a wee injury concern here or there, and also did manage to play two different 11s in the game. So if you actually go and visit the Rangers website and see what the two 11s were for the first and second half, it's kind of fascinating to see how the squad can shape up with different personnel there, and in a game like I just mentioned for the Newcastle game that's designed to provide valuable game minutes for the guys in the legs and the lungs, no doubt as well. And we had, as I say, a 2-0 victory, and Abdallah Sima headed home the opening goal after getting on the end of a trademark Borna Barisic cross. In fact, maybe the cross was a wee bit a wee bit shorter than Barisic actually meant, but you might have seen it online already. He got down there with an absolutely brilliant looping header, kind of diving looping header, to meet it, and then it went over the goalie. A fantastic finish. And then not long after that, Scott Wright burst forward and got a shot away that was deemed to be a handball. I didn't actually see a replay of that, but we got a penalty from that. Then up stepped, of course, Captain Fantastic James Tavernier to convert and give us the 2-0 victory. So that's not too bad. Clean sheet, a couple of goals, and one from our new signing and one from, of course, a guy who does it all the time as well. So for RTV, we did a thorough review of the recent survey results. And both Alan McWatt and myself met with David Melvin from RTV on Friday morning early to work through the logistics to set things up for the season. And while the entire logistics are still a work in progress, now that we are truly genuinely around the table with RTV, we did get a bit of a sense of the type and style of services that we would be looking to procure from them, and to see what clubs are looking for, of course, for the upcoming season as well. We sent all of that to RTV yesterday, and we got the vouchers and distributed these to the clubs actually just a wee while ago. Right now it's 6:23, and I think I saw the last one coming through within the last half hour, 45 minutes or so from Sandra Hawthorne. So if you haven't checked your inbox, please do go and get that checked out, and you'll have your RTV code for the season. And what the situation is, everyone should have everything they need to successfully show the game tomorrow against Newcastle if you subscribed to all RTV games or the games that were exclusive to RTV only. Everyone else, if you said you were going to take just the weekend games, tomorrow's game is not a weekend game, so you will not have access to tomorrow's games. I was kind of half hoping that we might get all the pre-season friendlies in that, but in terms of the actual literal systematic setup of the vouchers, it wasn't possible to be able to do that. And we'll give them these 4 games, 2 of which are on the weekend, but the other 2 is a wee bit of a freebie or a favour because we're negotiating, and then just revert over to weekend games. A wee bit too much, as I say, for the system to take. It didn't work out like that, but it gives us a good feel and flavour for what it's going to look like. You subscribe to weekend games, you will get the weekend games. You subscribe to all the games, you'll get all the games. RTV only, you'll get that too as well. So so thank you very much to Sandra and Alan for the support in getting all that information out there. As I say, we still have a wee bit of logistics and things like that to get through, but we're well on our way now. And it's just before I started recording, I seen both London and Orlando had already redeemed their vouchers, and Toronto Midtown as well. So that's great that people are getting on it, and they're going to get themselves organised as well. So that's a good hurdle for us. We still need to work through the financials with RTV, and that's going to be a wee bit later this week. They want to try and lock that up and then before the end of the week, before the Hamburg game on Saturday. And with that said, I have to be kind of honest here and say that I thought we were somewhat getting out of the RTV business. I thought that NARSA was going to be able to take an administrative step back and not have to do all this work in the close season. But it's the exact same as every other close season. We do a survey, we get the results back, we try and decipher the results, we chase the clubs that are delinquent and didn't bother the shirt even getting in contact with us, and then we get round the table with RTV. So my vision of us having a lighter load and transferring a lot of that admin over to RTV did not come to fruition at all, and I'm going to have to spend a wee bit of time once we get through all this and get through the convention stuff to figure out exactly why that is, because I wanted a wee bit of a break and a breather from that. However, we are not sunsetting our need and desire for RTV, which is great. There was only 2 clubs that dropped out of RTV services completely this season, and the rest are in. So we have 27 active clubs taking RTV services. And as I say, it's just like any regular season, which is not a bad thing, of course, overall. And just for information, the clubs that have yet to respond to us is Milton and Toronto number 1. Every other club provided us with a response, some of it very, very late, but Milton and Toronto number 1. If anyone from any of those clubs are listening, can you please give your committee a nudge or a shot in the arm or a shout out or whatever it is you need to do to get them to respond to the emails, please, so that we can get this wrapped up. And as I say, later in the week we'll get through the finances, we'll start to really get the costing model into a summarised state so that RTV know how much income they're going to actually get from us from this season, and then we can move on with the actual payments themselves. What we'll do from a payment perspective is similar to what we've done in previous years. You can pay up front for the entire season. Now, understanding it's a guess. We don't know how many domestic games there are going to be. We don't know how many European qualifiers there are going to be. Hopefully that's going to be 4 of those, of course, to get us into the Champions League, but maybe not. And then, of course, the domestic cups. We don't know if we're going to actually have a run to the domestic cups or not. So we do a bit of a guesstimate based on your per game rate, and then say this is what your number is going to be for the season, and then we'll do an accrual true up at the end of the season to get that organised as well. So if your club's in a position to pay it up front, we will be in touch shortly to say this is what your full season fee is, and this is where we take it from here. Everybody seems quite keen on getting the vouchers redeemed, and then when we send out the financial email it goes a wee bit quiet after that as well. Yeah, I wonder why that is, but that's where we're at on the RTV. So really getting close to getting all that admin organised and behind us, and we can look forward to the remainder of the season. So thank you again to everybody for taking the time to respond and getting us to this spot. On the shout-outs, I did actually have an opportunity to meet up in person with Nicola Fatkin, and for those who regularly listen or who attended the AGM, you'll know that Nicola is NARSA's new sponsorship and marketing director, and she was in town for a bit of a whistle-stop tour to Calgary for the Stampede. And so I got a chance to go see her yesterday afternoon, and we had a great catch up and a good laugh, and even better, what we actually managed to do. We actually managed to get Nicola set up for and signed up to subscribe for the NARSA Weekly Update podcast as well, and she listened to her first ever episode on the plane home last night as well. So things are trending in the right direction, aren't they? I have to say, yesterday Nicola and her whole crew, they got brought over here by Labatt's brewing company. I don't know if that's the exact corporate name, probably not, and as a little bit of a kind of team builder and a thank you for all of your help and services. A jolly is what everybody else calls it. And they arrived early on Thursday. So the Stampede at that point, if you don't know anything about the Stampede at that point is in full swing here in Calgary. And so then fast forward 3 days of heavy partying, and lo and behold, I got the burst couch version of Nicola and her crew. She was in pain, she was hurting, she was just desperate to get home. I did feel kind of bad for her, I have to say. No, I didn't. I'm actually not even telling the truth here. One of my favourite things, folks, in my life is if I end up working with or dealing with or being in someone's company who is absolutely burst, who is hungover beyond belief, and I'm completely sober and I'm feeling fresh and as fit as a fiddle. I just love that. I love to gloat, I love to feel so superior, and it just makes me feel like a better human being. So Nicola, thank you very, very much for making me feel like that yesterday, and it was great to see you, and I do know that she got home safe and sound today as well. So great to catch up on that. On Leo's, when he can start earning dough over here, 663 days and 94 weeks until he's 16, and then he can start earning money. He can actually start earning money elsewhere earlier than that, but that's for where he's actually volunteering right now, which is called Westside Rec. It's the local sports centre here over in the southwest of Calgary. And finally, on the shout outs, I did want to just extend a big massive thank you and good luck wishes to Tony Goals, after you'll know that he left us for Serie B side Parma. I was actually quite surprised that they were not a Serie A side anymore, because Parma is one of the big names in Italian football, of course, but I really thought he was going to be with us for the long haul, but since Michael Beale came back to the club and kind of changed their style of play, and the fact that he was injured at the time and had those niggling injuries essentially for the remainder of the season almost, it all just compounded in generally just being best for both parties, didn't it? For Tony himself and for the club, and of course for Parma, because they're getting a proven goal scorer as well. And I really liked what Michael Beale said, because he said, Antonio can really be pleased, or can be really pleased, of his time here at Rangers. He scored goals and made a good contribution on the pitch, but also as a man and a professional. He was someone that I enjoyed working with and who built strong relationships with his teammates and staff off the pitch. We initially had a conversation at the end of last season where we discussed football, his family, and also what the future would look like in terms of the team. Antonio was very honest on his side, and we have been working with him and his agent in the following weeks to find a solution that suits all parties. So that kind of goes back to what I said is best for everyone. I am pleased for him to have this excellent opportunity in Italy. You know what, folks? Not everyone gets such a lovely goodbye. Essentially, and Tony Goals was here, the consummate professional. He started the season like an absolute house on fire, and by the way, you remember the Champions League goals that he scored for us to actually through the qualifiers to get us in to the Champions League, and unfortunately the injury just came at the wrong time, and then the goals kind of dried up a wee bit, but he did well. I think he was joint top scorer last season, so for any striker, of course, that's what you're looking to try and see. So great for him. I really enjoyed him. For anybody who's been listening for quite some time, I was lauding Tony Goals after he scored the goals that he scored for us, so I'm a wee bit disappointed to see him go, but it just leaving on a high note like that and getting a good opportunity and being thanked very honestly and very sincerely by the manager is about as good as it gets, isn't it, really? So yeah, that's it on the shout outs for this season. For the convention update, which is essentially what basically anyone is tuning in for these days, since such is the excitement for New York 2024, I can officially confirm that it is 318 days and 45 weeks until NARSA 2024 in New York City. That is assuming that we formally confirm the dates of the 30th of May to the 1st of June, which I need to be very clear, and I'm going to say it a wee bit, and a wee bit again here. We are not formally confirmed as of yet. I have not signed the contract yet, and until I do so, I can't confidently tell you that's what the dates are going to be. So please don't book any travel based on the dates that I'm providing for right now. And again, just similar to the last few weeks, we are working with our preferred hotel in New York City, and we have had indeed further dialogue on our second pass comments, which we sent back to them last week, and they have subsequently responded to them as well. I did have a bit of an impromptu call with the sales executive over at the hotel on Friday afternoon to talk about some of the areas that we still need a wee bit further dialogue on, that you kind of can miss things and over email, or we do this spreadsheet that's structured through the entire contract where we put our comments in, they respond to the comments, then we decide what we're going to do next. That's just a process I like to follow, but again, you can miss things like that. So we had this call, and it was good, so I started to impress upon him some of the things, because we're very, very close. There's just a couple of things to iron out now, and I got an opportunity to impress those things and just give them a bit of an idea of how it's been working and structured at various other conventions in the past as well. So it's a bit of an education moment, quite honestly, for them, because I can tell them all the things, I can share information with them, and then I demonstrated literally by sharing my screen and showing some contractual details from previous times to kind of prove where things were at and things like that. So it was a bit of an enlightening moment for our colleague over at the hotel there, which is great, and hopefully he'll take that away and make some magic happen for us. And then one of the major things that we did kind of talk about is obviously getting things locked in. They have I think I mentioned this last week, the 20th of July, which is, what's that, the 20th, it's probably going to be Thursday, is when the concessions would expire on the existing contract. The concessions is, banner hanging, parking, things like that. Don't quote me on those, but that's the typical things, the things that they're giving us as a bit of a sweetener for the convention, of course. And I hope that we're there between now and Thursday. I'm going to actually come off the pod tonight and then do the admin that I need to do for this, and then I'm going to feed back a couple of wee bits of information to the hotel again, just based on the conversations that have taken place, so that they know what they have to be working on to get back to us, so that we don't blow the date of the 20th, and if the date is in jeopardy in some way, hopefully we'll get an extension on that. So anyway, but maybe by this time next week we might be talking about are talking in absolutes in terms of the property, in terms of the dates, in terms of what you can expect, in terms of getting the booking link out there and things like that. So this is my opportunity once again, before I get to the next part, is to reiterate that we are targeting the dates of the 30th of May to the 1st of June 2024, but with no signed contract yet. I categorically do not recommend anyone booking any travel until the ink is dry on the contract. I suspect it's either going to be this week or very early next week, and then it'll be signed, and then we'll be able to move on that. So we'll have the RTV pretty much wrapped up, we'll have 2024 pretty much wrapped up, and then we can kind of ease into the next couple of weeks and look forward to the beginning of the season. That's my prediction right now, and we'll see how that goes. So last week I did introduce the topics, and you know what I was doing last week? I was just trying to create some realism around the location and what we can expect in terms of costs for the location, and just start to really just ease into that. New York City is an expensive city. It's one of the most popular cities in the entire world, and what we're trying to do is create an experience, a once in a lifetime experience, to go there, to experience it, to have that Rangers look and feel throughout the whole place, and just have an absolute ball when we're there. And I mentioned the hotel rooms are not going to be cheap, but in relative terms, what we've negotiated is way cheaper than you would be able to get on your own. I did mention that for sure last week. And then I went on to discuss the drinks prices last week, and who knew I was lighting the blue touch paper when I mentioned that the unnegotiated beer prices from their standard food and beverage, catalogue, so to speak, was $18 per beer. And of course that's $18 American per beer. And who knew? I was quite surprised that we had so many listeners that just seemed to light things up big time. My phone was going, people were saying, hey, I heard that this happened, and I heard it's $18 and stuff. And then we had a lot of activity around about Tuesday and Wednesday on the NARSA WhatsApp group as well on that, to the point that I was thinking, oh wow, this is great. I've got more listeners than I thought. We might be in double figures, folks. I'm starting to believe that. I really am. I need to be super clear about this, folks. I wasn't intending to scare anyone, but I did want to make sure that you knew what you were getting into with this particular convention, and I'll definitely have more information on that as we conclude the negotiations, as I say, maybe later this week or early next, and then we'll all being well, we'll be in good shape to have alcohol cheaper than what I mentioned last week. But what I did want to think about was, as I mentioned earlier there, the Calgary Stampede has been in town here for quite a wee while, and that's going well. You go onto the grounds, you get a beer, it's $11 or $12. Granted, that's Canadian. I went to the Calgary Cavalry game on the weekend and had an opportunity for a very quick catch up with Fraser Aird there, who played in the game, and Calgary won with a last minute OG, believe it or not. And it's $12 a beer, $13 a beer there. You go to a concert, it's $10, $11, $12, $13 there. So we're not, the surprise and the shock, I know that it's the sticker shock when you first see and hear it, and the prices will not be $18, folks, trust me on that. But we are expecting to pay more. We're in literally ground zero, not the ground zero related to actual ground zero in New York City, but we're in the absolute centre of the world in terms of entertainment and things like that, and unfortunately that comes at a cost. So didn't mean to scare anyone. I apologise if I did. We will see what happens and then what comes back. What we're actually going to do this week is we're going to put a wee bit of a poll out on our social media channels and a WhatsApp group and the various other channels that we've got to ask our folks that are intending on coming about maybe an alternative way to do things in terms of the alcohol. So I'll leave that as a wee bit of a teaser. We'll get the information out there, and then we'll see what that brings over the next few days there. And there are things that we're working on, to make it an exceptional, incredible experience. And obviously, we'll get information about that as we go forward then. But yeah, so that was some excitement last week that I didn't quite expect, and maybe not the best way to get that organised, but it's the way that things are. But yeah, as I say, unnegotiated. I was just trying to give you an idea of what those look like on paper for right now. On the communications front for this week, just a couple of things to go over. And you'll most definitely, I imagine by now, have heard that the dispute between Rangers and the SPFL regarding the promotion for the SPFL's main sponsor, Cinch, is now over. And it's now over, more importantly, in Rangers' favour. Now here's the kicker for me. Here's what the statement said. You probably read it or heard about it. The Scottish Professional Football League, Rangers and Parks of Hamilton have confirmed that the long-running dispute between them in relation to the SPFL's title sponsorship contract with Cinch has been brought to an end. The SPFL has accepted that Rangers had a pre-existing contract with Parks at the point that the SPFL entered into the title sponsorship contract with Cinch in June 2021. All three parties have now agreed to withdraw the resulting Scottish FA arbitration, with the SPFL making a contribution to the costs of Rangers and Parks. These sums will be donated to charity. The SPFL regrets any damage to the reputation of Rangers and Parks as a result of the dispute. Then it went on to say the SPFL chairman Murdo McLennan went on to say, we are delighted to have finally drawn a line under this dispute following discussions between ourselves and Rangers, and we are keen to do all that we can to learn from this protracted disagreement. I am particularly grateful for the constructive approach shown by all parties in helping resolve this long-running situation, and I'm very happy to apologise if there has been any damage to the reputation of Rangers FC or Parks of Hamilton. Going forward, we have also agreed to commission an independent review of governance to help ensure the SPFL can avoid any such dispute in the future. This review will commence in October 2023. Okay, so I've read both of these parts. McLennan's, what would that be, summation of what happened, and then the actual formal notification or statement in and of itself. And while it was widely reported, like if you looked elsewhere, it said Rangers receive apology and things like that. So it was widely reported that Rangers received an apology. And I have to say, folks, I don't see an apology in either of these statements, in the formal statement or what McLennan said. So I'm going to read out what I think they think is the apology, and it's the very last sentence of the formal agreement, and it's kind of buried in the middle of McLennan. So the very last sentence says, the SPFL regrets any damage to the reputation of Rangers and Parks as a result of the dispute. I don't see an apology there. In McLennan's, and I'm very happy to apologise if there has been any damage to the reputation of Rangers FC or Parks of Hamilton. As we were saying on the NARSA WhatsApp group last week, none of those are any form of an apology. And if those are an apology, I'm one of the original members of the Jackson 5, folks, and if anybody's seen me, you'll know that's not true. These mobs that we're dealing with, they couldn't get any more, I don't know, what's the word, deceitful, pitiful, arrogant. Just grow up and truly admit when you're wrong and move on. You'll get more respect. You'll actually learn more about yourself and others if you do that, and you'll get an opportunity to move forward and be better than you were before. This half innuendo garbage apology along the lines of, my mum told me I have to say sorry. You ever do that when you were a kid? And you can just shove it. You can ram that where the sun don't shine, as far as I'm concerned. Just disgraceful end to this. And when everyone knew that they were wrong from day one. The rules have been clear and been completely understood for the longest time. So Rangers were just kind of like, what? And then, all the sums are going to charity, which is great. But that's money and time and effort that Rangers spent on that when we could have been spending it on other more fruitful things that would actually be progressive for the club and for the game in general. Just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, kind of on a somewhat similar vein, where a kind of dispute came to an end, there was an announcement last week, I think it was last Tuesday, so we obviously didn't get to include it on last week's pod, and that said that Rangers are delighted to announce a new exciting partnership with TEG, the leading international match tour organiser and global entertainment giant. The innovative partnership allows TEG, is it TEG or TEG? I'll say TEG, to collaborate with Rangers, with our world-renowned and historic football club partnering in TEG's international match tournaments in the summers of 2024 through 2026, where Rangers do not participate in official FIFA or UEFA tournaments. And then James Bisgrove went on to say, we're delighted to team up with TEG from this innovative commercial partnership that propels our international strategy into a new dimension. The collaboration will enable the Rangers first team to tour international markets such as North America, Far East Asia and the Middle East in the years ahead. Rangers Football Club is incredibly fortunate to have the most passionate and diverse supporter base in the world football, and we are excited to bring our men's first team to key international markets with the strong support of TEG as a partner. Now here's the interesting part. TEG, the group CEO, again a fellow called Jeff Jones, commented, we are pleased to have a touring partnership with Rangers Football Club. This partnership ends the previous dispute between Rangers and TEG as both organisations look forward to a collaborative and mutually beneficial commercial relationship in the years ahead. This year alone, our TEG Sports Division will tour some of the biggest football clubs across 8 countries in both the Northern and Southern Hemispheres. We look forward to continuing to expand our international footballing touring with Rangers. So TEG are the folks that were behind the Sydney Cup a couple of years back, and then Rangers were very fortunate to get out of that through some contractual technicalities that TEG or whomever else was involved had not met or had overstepped or something like that. I don't know the legalities or the behind the scenes situation on that, but there was a dispute still ongoing. So how best to resolve a dispute is just to create a brand new mutually beneficial partnership between both parties, and it sounds like these guys are the real deal. But the reason I wanted to mention that was, one, it kind of draws a line under the Sydney Cup. We can move on. Hopefully the club have learned from that, and then we get an opportunity to do things differently in the future. But secondly, I really love this fellow's, honesty and his his statement, where he just said, this, just to be super clear, this ends any of the garbage that went before. We're now in a situation where we're going to be better as we go forward, and we're really looking forward to working with Rangers on that. So hopefully there's no Sydney Cup debacle or Sydney Cup-esque debacle as we go forward, and everyone is better for the experience. And Rangers, instead of potentially losing money and spending time and effort in the legalities of trying to fight this, we get an opportunity to do some very cool things against some very cool teams and from some very cool places. And as you see there, of course, North America was mentioned, so that's certainly piqued my interest, and I'll look forward to further dialogue with the club as we go forward on that. Okay, my friends, that will do it for this week, and as always, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very, very, very much for taking the time to listen, and please do forward it to anyone that you think might enjoy it. We had Nicola Fatkin join us last time, and who knows, maybe you could have your neighbour, your sister, your brother, your friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whomever to listen in as we build up our community over time. Until next week, here's to getting to see some of our new players in somewhat competitive action, and getting, obviously, of course, to honour the legend that is Alan McGregor in tomorrow's testimonial. So until next week, please do take care of yourself, folks, okay? And I will chat to you then. Cheerio now.